Intellectual history matters to patterns of social inequality and racial injustice because how we understand the nature and sources of a social problem set the parameters of our imagined solutions. One question that my book addresses, which is rooted in African American intellectual and political history, involves debates about the nature and sources of racial oppression, or what many social scientists and civil rights activists in the mid-20th century often referred to as the race problem. This was a catch-all phrase that many used to discuss prejudice, discrimination, legal segregation, racial inequality, racial injustice, without always neatly distinguishing between them. And yet mid-20th century scholars and activists debated about three key questions. What actually constituted the race problem? What were its primary and tertiary causes? What aspects of the race problem could be changed and how? Of course, many understood the race issue as a war that had to be fought on many fronts. And yet, how one understands the nature and sources of racial injustice affects which front you choose to fight first and how you deploy one's resources. The book also points to the dilemma of the mid-century scholar-activist. Many of the individuals I study, people like Lewis Worth, Charles Johnson, were especially committed to using social science in the service of social action, or racial politics. And yet the reality of doing this proved much more complicated than many of them envisioned. I focus on the ways social scientists, civil rights activists, and the many individuals who blurred those roles negotiated their competing scholarly and political commitments. Many of them were trying to make sense of something that sociologist Robin Williams put very well: not all causes of a social problem are appropriate levers of change.